what is the differences between the Third Reich and what's happening today, if you say?
Okay, the difference between the Third Reich and what's happening today is that in most countries, Western Europe, Central Europe, the United States, Canada, we don't have a one-party government. That's the good thing. Okay, we have a one-party in power government, but there are other parties who challenge the accepted leadership in elections. When Hitler came to power, after the Enabling Act of 34, he abolished all other forms of political parties. The only party in Nazi Germany was the National Socialist German Workers' Party. There were no other parties allowed, which meant dictatorial powers. He would never be challenged in an election. There would never be another election. That's one of the big differences. Another difference is the fact that the Third Reich targeted specific groups of people, Jews, Slavs, communists, for marginalization and then isolation and then later extermination. They targeted specific groups of people. These governments are targeting specific groups of people today, those who are unvaccinated and those who don't follow the political ideology of the current party in power. So they are considered domestic threats, which is a very easy way of targeting people by saying that you're not going along with the program. The big distinction between the Third Reich and what's going on, even with this COVID compliance nonsense, is the fact that the Nazis were target specific in their peoples that they were targeting. These countries like mine, they're targeting everybody. Everybody is a target in order to get this vaccination or to be, placed into a position of towing the political line and being a yes man nodding to the idiocy in Washington. And so we're not target specific on a broad stretch like Hitler was, but we are canvassing large sections of the population and targeting those that we feel are not going along with the program. And Australia, I mean, hell, look what they did. They just locked down an entire province.
Yeah, this is the period of time where I've never felt like the government's an actual threat to me, because we are vulnerable. We don't have weapons in the UK, in Europe. We're so dependent. And another difference that I'm seeing between, well, actually a worse difference for us is that if you look at the time frames, right, you had Hitler joining I think it was the German Workers' Party in 1929 or
23,
right, ages. So there was a period of like him getting fame after almost 6 or 7 years, but we have almost in sync world leaders after the virus comes out, basically doing lockdowns 4 or 5 months into I think it was May or June 2020. So the time frames are accelerated because we have the internet, we have just speed of communications, of research. And the one thing that probably disturbs me the most is that the homogeneity of the world leaders. We don't have one party system like Germany had, but we have a sense of one party homogeneity of common thought from world leaders on mandates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Europe especially. And when Donald Trump was president, he was not on board with that. Biden is very much on board with that. Just like Obama was on board with that, because they are globalists. They think that we should live under a common currency, a common government, or at least a common framework of government, which is a confusing concept anyway, because I would not expect a European to immediately adopt the American mindset. Hell, even in my country. I mean, you take somebody from Texas, you can't get them to agree on anything with someone from New York. They have total different mindsets. I mean, I'm in North Carolina. I'm a South Carolina native. I have virtually zero in common with anyone in New Jersey, other than the fact I love my country and I was willing to die for it. But most of those people up there, they're clowns. Okay. I mean, Delaware clowns. I mean, they voted for Joe Biden for 48 years, from senator to vice president to president. I mean, they voted for this idiot who's never had a successful foreign or domestic policy issue in his entire career. He's never had one success in 48 years. If you had a doctor with no success in 48 days, he'd lose his license. But what you're saying is that the European leadership seem to be coalescing under the umbrella of, okay, we need to contain societies And we need to build these things into something we can control, we can shape, we can educate, we can propagandize, that we can make do our bidding. And that's the nature of human control. If you, okay, every pack of wolves has an alpha male and an alpha female. Okay, it is not an egalitarian system of government in a wolf pack. You've got somebody who's in charge. Okay, so the guy in charge has his party, and the party makes mandates, they pass laws, and therefore, if you don't comply, you are in non-compliance with the government, and therefore you become a target. That's a big. We don't here in America, man. We don't play that game. No. That's why we have the Second Amendment to our Constitution. See, understand something. Europeans, you guys got screwed over years ago. With us, our Second Amendment was not created to give us the right to bear arms because we feared a foreign invasion. We didn't fear a foreign invasion. To hell with that. Our Second Amendment was to protect us, to protect our citizenry against totalitarian government. Okay? People don't realize that. The founding fathers said, no, you have a right to carry a gun in case the government gets crazy. And then you can, protect yourself against, government.
It's a legit thought. Foresight.
Yeah, of course, because they were smart enough to realize that a citizenry that is disarmed is vulnerable to being basically controlled and overtaken by a dictatorship. That's the reason why our military is very unique. Our military is very apolitical. We are not allowed, if you're in the military and you're in uniform, you're not allowed to openly voice political opinions. You're not allowed to do that. We all hold them. We all hold our political thoughts in our head. We're human beings. But if you're in the military, you take the orders from the commander in chief, who's the president, whether he's right or wrong, Democrat, Republican, independent, or Martian. Okay, whoever is the commander in chief issues orders to the Secretary of Defense, and you follow your orders. Okay, that's the way it is. There is no second guessing the order. You follow your orders. That's why we have to be very careful in whom we select to run the country, because they also control the military. But we also have a fail-safe system of government, which most European countries don't have. We have a three-tier system of government. We have the executive branch, which is the presidency and the White House. Then we have the judiciary branch, which is the Supreme Court, which analyzes laws for constitutionality. Is it legal? Does it violate the Constitution? This, that, and the other. Then you have Congress. Okay, they're the legislative branch. They pass laws, and if those laws come into conflict with the Constitution, the Supreme Court adjudicates those laws and says, yes, this is in conflict with Article so and so, or no, it's not. It's okay. You can pass this as a law. So our system of government has several fail-safes that the current Democrats want to eliminate. They want to pack the Supreme Court and put more liberals on there, because to the liberal democratic mindset in my country, which is trying to pass these mandates, they see the bench and a judge not as an adjudicator of law, but as a purveyor of ideology. They prefer to have activist judges pass decisions based upon their political ideology, as opposed to sticking strictly to the Constitution of the United States and even the constitutions of their own individual states. So that's the big danger in our country right now with the liberal Democrats, is they want to control government by mandate, and they want to do it by fiat. They don't mind an executive order coming out if it suits their purposes, but let Donald Trump executive order seconding funds to secure the border wall to protect the country. Oh my God, that's impeachable. But the European countries are screwed. You guys are really in bad shape, because I think that stress upon a society makes it stronger. Like making steel. If you stress it, you heat it, you bend it, you pound it, you cool it, you heat it again, you pound it, you keep stressing that steel. It makes a stronger bond. But if you just take a piece of pig iron, heat it up, stick it in the water, it's brittle, it'll break. I think stress makes stronger societies. It makes stronger people. That's why I like talking about the Scots. They've had 1,000 years of stress. I mean, those noisy neighbors to the south were not very kind to them. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Scottish people are such an ingenious people, a resilient people, and innovative, creative people, and very entrepreneurial, because they realize that if you can't defeat your enemy, you can work with him to a certain degree, but then work around him to your own devices. And I think
Scotland now for me is completely different. They just love this SMP. They love being on furlough, sitting at home playing Xboxes. Not the kind of kids that I grew up with. The kids that I grew up with were pretty rough, but nowadays all the kids just sit at home, play their games, take their Kool-Aid.
Well,
I don't know what's going on.
Well, I remember Glasgow fairly well. I mean, I actually got into a couple of altercations when I was down in a place called the Clydeside, and I'm sure you're familiar with that area. And anyway, I had a couple of altercations where I guess they figured I was going to be an easy target to rob because crime was pretty big in Glasgow back in those days. And but I think that a proper application of force and intellect can solve a lot of problems. Not to mention, high explosive, maybe a well-placed bullet. But as far as people like in Scotland or any other European country being cudgeled into a comfort zone to be dominated by a superior class. And I use that term superior in quotation marks. I don't mean superior by intellect. I don't mean superior by wealth. I mean superior by the manipulation of power. And if you can be subjugated by people who were at first elected, but then perpetually kept in power, or at least their surrogates get elected to replace them when they retire or when they fall ill or whatever. If you don't have a strong opposition force to your government, a legitimate legal opposition force, something that can voice dissent, voice opinion, and have honest debate. The day you kill honest debate in the political forum of a country, you just became a future dictatorship.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the way history has proven it to be.